Okay. It is 6 p.m. on the dot, and I will call this meeting of the Lunenburg Town Council to order. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Further, just for council's information, we've been sent a plaque by the Lieutenant Governor's Office, a community spirit plaque in recognition for Nova Scotians supporting each other during the pandemic, and it's been asked that we place that, and I think we can leave it to staff to dutifully find a location. Another housekeeping item is to remind councilors, if you could, to turn on your mics when you're speaking, and also to turn them off when you're not speaking, because with the seamless transition between Zoom and the room, it's helpful to not have echo if all the mics are turned off when nobody in the room is speaking. And with those housekeeping items out of the way, I will look for a motion to approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor Sanford, seconded by Councillor Halverson. Are there any additions or deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. That takes us on to the February 23rd council meeting minutes. I will entertain a motion to approve those as circulated. Moved by Councillor Birtle, seconded by Councillor Duggan. Any errors or omissions to note? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. First up in public hearings, presentations, and questions, we're pleased to have Marilyn Hay with us from the Department of Municipal Affairs. Marilyn is our Municipal Advisor and has come here for what I believe is an introductory presentation. So we will give her the floor for 10 minutes to make her presentation.
Okay. This council chamber looks a lot different since the last time I've been in it. So great work adapting to the times. And again, thank you for allowing me to come speak to you as council. It's great to see people in real life, even if it's from just the eyes. So again, Marilyn Hay, I'm the municipal advisor for the area covering from Chester around to Digby with the province of Nova Scotia. Just going to give a quick introductory presentation, really just put faces to names and give you a quick overview of our department and my role. If we can go to the next slide. Perfect. Yeah, so just a quick, that's okay. I think everyone has them in front of them, and the flashing, I guess we'll just have to deal with. Yeah, so I'm a resource, the department's a resource to municipalities, council as a whole, and we often work with your staff, with the CAO and their staff, sorry. If we can move to the next slide. You'll notice that housing has been removed from our department name. So with the recent changes, we are now Department of Municipal Affairs, and housing has moved to infrastructure. So we have some recent structural changes. We have a new minister, Minister Brendan McGuire, Deputy Minister Justin Houston. Our ADM is Mark Peck, which some of you may be familiar with. And there's 3 of us within governance and advisory services that cover the province for municipal advisors. So we won't jump into a huge history lesson on where municipal government started, but it's really important to know that municipalities are creatures of statute, so they don't actually appear in constitution. So provincial and federal levels of governments do. Municipalities are a creature of statute. So I'm sure you're all very familiar with the Municipal Government Act by now, and that's really where a large majority of the authority comes from. Our department is not the municipal government police, although some people may think we are. We're here to help, not provide legal advice, but help guide municipalities on finding sections in the legislation that might be relevant to what they're looking to do. That being said, if you aren't following legislation, you could find yourself, open yourself up to a lawsuit. So although we're not the police, we would advise you to follow the legislation and stay within your authority. So we will have quite a bit of contact with you as council and as well as the CAO and staff over the four years of your term. And I thought this was a good opportunity just to put a face to a name. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Just quick overview of some of the projects that our department has been involved in. Recently, the election, congratulations on all of you joining this council, new council, and a special shout out to Councillor Sanford. I presented her with her book from the winnings from the council training session. We did a book giveaway with Doug Griffiths, who was the guest speaker, and if you have a chance to read, it's a really light read, maybe March break reading. But yeah, so that is one thing that we did after the election was we did some training. So if you were able to attend, that's great. So yeah, just a quick glance of what some of the things that our department is involved in. You'll have a map in your presentation, the next slide. Three of us, as I mentioned, 3 advisors. We report to Nick Barr, who is our director. And we're generally the main point of contact for questions you may have. We help navigate through the big system, what is the government, help try to find you support or possibly programs or grants that might be applicable for projects that you're looking to do. So we often say as the advisors, your job title or your job description has all the things that you're supposed to do. And at the very bottom, it says other duties as required. That's where ours starts. And then it goes from there. So we're kind of involved in many different things. On the next slide, you'll see just a highlighted area that I cover. So really South Shore and western of the Nova Scotia. And again, we are here for advice and guidance, training, if that's of interest to council, really a navigation role for both council, largely through mayor and CAO, but there are times where as individual councillors, you may reach out to me directly. So my contact information's there, but my first recommendation would be ask your CAO. Often they have a lot of the information you'll need, and if you have a question, there's a good chance your other councillors also have a similar question. So that is my recommendation to that. Because we are in weird times and there's not really this interactive way of getting to know each other, I was just going to let you know that I originally grew up in Ontario. I went to St. Francis Xavier, played hockey there. Nice ring. Like many Nova Scotians, then I moved west and lived in Alberta for a number of years. Transitioned from the environmental field into municipal government, and I've now landed myself back where I think is now home. So I guess it's a full circle, and I will be forever a come from away, but try to be a Maritimer at heart. Just wanted to quickly touch on kind of governance and where you fit. It's kind of the foundational piece that we've been talking to new councils about. It's really important as you go through your next 4 years to revisit this piece. So you think of all of the complex issues that you're dealing with. This really is fundamental. And if you did attend the council training session, this might, please don't zone out. It's a bit of a refresher. If we can go to the next slide, there's a really nice image that Jason Hahn, a fellow advisor, came up with. He likes to reference Independence Day movie where it's like a spaceship landing on the, if this is ringing any bells, maybe not, but really the whole takeaway here is the council is at the top and they're really making the decisions through bylaws, resolutions, and policies and setting the priorities and the vision for the municipality. And all that's being funneled through the CAO to municipal staff. So you'll notice that there's no connect between council and municipal staff. It's only through the CAO, and that's intentional, given that the only employee of council is the CAO. So this is something that we actually have an hour workshop in, getting into roles and responsibilities. But the big takeaway is council is to govern and do so as a collective, given that you all have one vote and you can't make decisions as individual councillors. And it's the CAO's role to make sure that all those decisions and priorities that are being discussed and decided by council are carried out through in the municipality. So if there's a quick plug, if there's interest in further training on governance, roles and responsibilities, we're happy to set that up. And it's really, we can get into some situations, scenarios, and some experiences that we've heard through different training sessions. I think we'll go to the next slide. It's just a high-level overview of just the symbiotic relationship between the elected and the non-elected. So you'll notice that it's they're so intertwined, and it's important that they're working together. I'm not saying that just like council doesn't agree on every single thing. I'm sure there's going to be times that council and CAO don't agree on everything, and that's okay. But it's important that you recognize where your lanes are, where the decisions are being made, and that there is a separation, but there's one common goal of bringing the municipality forward. So that's just the gears are quite symbolic to that relationship there. So lastly, I was just going to, again, another little plug here. We did do a really quick high-level training session in November with municipalities virtually, and we had great participation, over 200 people at the training sessions. If there is interest of council for myself and my colleagues to come and do more in-depth training with council, we're more than happy to. If there's specific topics, whether it's in camera, conflict of interest, asset management, we can set that up, but just wanted to throw that out there. And really, that's all I have for this evening. And the last slide just says, any mistakes in this presentation are definitely my fault and not the department's. So that's all I have. We really just wanted to put face and names, make the connection with council, and look forward to working with you all over the next 4 years.
Thank you, Ms. Hay. So as is custom, we've had 10 minutes for the presentation. I don't know if we're about to hear the gong, but we have 5 minutes for questions. Do any councillors have any questions in reference to Ms. Hay's presentation? Yeah, there it goes. What? Any questions? We have 5 minutes for questions, if there are any. Councillor Sanford.
Thank you, Marilyn. That was great. I noticed in the slide you had mentioned RENs. Can you help me understand the connection of you and your group to RENs? Like, is it that you facilitate the process of RENs? Do you provide money for positions in RENs, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I guess short answer is we do provide funding, and the RENs that exist, it's municipalities and the province fund the RENs across the province. So those, there is a map of RENs in the South Shore. I think there was one well before my time. So I've been in this role for 1.5 years, so I can't speak to the details of that, but the RENs our roles are really funding, and we sit on the liaison and oversight committees depending on where the REN is in the province.
Is it possible, because we don't have a REN here, we did at some point, but my understanding is we don't have now, might we receive funding to support a position that could engage with RENs? Would you have a connection to that or help facilitate that?
So the REN funding is based on municipality provincial contributions. So I can't speak to what will happen, but the RENs that are set up are actually boards of industry. So it's not municipal employees that are part of the REN boards.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sanford. Any further questions from council? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Marilyn, for the presentation. And we will move on to item 6 on the agenda, correspondence, petitions, and proclamations consideration. We've received a request for a Town of Lunenburg proclamation recognizing the month of May 2021 as Lyme Disease Awareness Month. I believe a copy of the proclamation draft is in the package, and so I would entertain a motion, if it's any councillor's pleasure, to make it to so proclaim that the month of May be Lyme Disease Awareness Month. Deputy Mayor, moving, I take it. Yes. Seconded by Councillor Ernst. Is there any discussion or debate on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Item 7, unfinished business. So there is a proposed amendment to the Committees of Council policy to formalize the Committee of the Whole procedure that we've been utilizing and to dissolve formally the General Government Committee. And there is a draft motion provided. If there are any questions of staff, but we've been through this and notice has been given. So if anybody would like to move it, you were the one that gave, the deputy mayor gave notice. So I'm assuming you can move it. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Halverson. Is there any discussion or debate on this proposed policy amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Secondly is an internal committee appointment. So per our Committees of Council policy, and I'll look to the clerk to correct me here, a councillor is the chair of the audit committee, and we need to appoint one prior to, actually commencing with the audit. So it is proposed in the motion that that be Councillor Halverson on my recommendation. But I mean, the position is open if anybody else would like it. So if it's anybody's pleasure to move that, by all means. Councillor Sanford moving the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Duggan. Any discussion or debate? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Might have to seek audit training as a first course for Municipal Affairs. Section 8, there were a series of committee meetings and the minutes were provided for council's information. If there's any questions or discussion related to that. Seeing none, that takes us on to new business. And the final piece of business for public session is a development agreement application of David Bricks at 185 Pelham Street for a third residential unit. A draft motion has been provided, and I'm assuming we have the planner with us via Zoom to speak to this. And we'll give her 5-10 minutes or so to summarize, and if everybody in the room can turn their mics off so we don't get the echo, that would be great.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. All this is, they're putting a third unit in the basement, which necessitates a development agreement. And what's before you right now is to accept the application and to forward it to the Planning Advisory Committee so that they could hold a public information meeting and make a recommendation. So it's fairly straightforward. I don't need 10 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Sutherland. So are there any questions of Ms. Sutherland on that? Seeing none, is it anybody's pleasure to move the draft motion that's been provided? Moved by Councillor Duggan, seconded by Councillor Birtles. I think I had quickest on the draw. Is there any discussion or debate on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. That takes us to item 10, a motion to meet in camera pursuant to section 22.2 of the Municipal Government Act to consider items legal advice eligible for solicitor-client privilege. And so if somebody would be so kind as to move that, Councillor Birtles, seconded by Councillor Ernst. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? And with council's consent, we'll take a 10-minute recess while we set up for the meeting in camera.